everyone seems to be going mushroom crazy. Hence my new mug that I've got here. I absolutely love the mushroom designs that are about. I've got all sorts of things. Some you've already seen because I did a video on it. But I decided it was time to sort the crochet out. Some of you may have done the chocolate orange I did a while back, which is a little toadstool. So I did have a little bit of a mushroom theme there. But as you've seen from the thumbnail, it's this little guy this time. Now, you don't have to have a face on it. I was initially just making a mushroom. That is all I wanted. I was going to do it so you can hang it up or you can sit on the side because it does sit quite well as well. But while it was sat looking at me, I thought it needs a little face. So I did pop a little face on, but that's completely optional, of course. We're going to just be looking at the structure and the patterning for this little guy. Don't forget, I am in UK terms though, so you may need a conversion chart, so keep an eye out for that one because it does make a difference, and I know it has caused some confusion in the past. So it's a nice simple pattern. It's done in double knit yarn and it's just scraps of yarn really. You don't even need a lot. So we're going to go top down and do this, but if you do enjoy my channel, please like, subscribe and share. We've got some Christmas stuff coming up very soon, and let's get going. So here is our little mushroom guy again. I was sort of trying to think, you know, I kept saying guy earlier. I desperately wanted to make the fun guy joke, but it wasn't going to land, so I'm not going to do it, so you can make up your own jokes. So anyway, here he is. I have changed the colours very slightly because I know you can see I did like this sort of grass effect around the bottom, and I don't think that colour showed up, so I've got a darker green there. So basically, we'll have a look at what materials we've got first. I have very strangely rolled up yarn. They started coming undone, so they got very quickly rolled up like that. So I've got red for the top, but you could do brown, you could do all sorts of colours. I noticed there is a lot of different colours for the mushrooms at the moment. I know I've got an orange one and things like that. So I have a what I would call a mushroom colour for his body, red for the cap, cream for the frill and the under of the cap, and I said this bright green that I've got there, which I think will show up a lot better, but you don't even have to add the bright green if you don't want. I have a little bit of toy stuffing, so you do need, well, you don't need a lot, but you know, you need a reasonable amount. I have a tiny bit of black yarn. The only reason I've done this is for the mouth. That's how tiny amount you need. You can use an embroidery thread or something like that as well if you wanted. And then looking at my bits and pieces here, the hook size I am using is a 3.50 millimeters. So that's that. I have a couple of sewing threads. Again, I sewed buttons on, sewed buttons on. Again, doesn't have to be that. You can do all sorts of different ways of doing it. So that's why I've got some sewing threads. These are my tiny buttons that I had. You can see how little they are. Again, they can be bigger ones, they can be felt, they can be anything that you want. I have some needles and I have a stitch marker. So, and my scissors and pen and paper off to the side. So you can see I've got lots of little bits and pieces there. So we're going to move them to one side. We're going to move the red to one side because the first colour we're going to start on is the base. We're actually starting from here, working our way up. Now, when I made him, I had wondered whether I should have made the body a little bit shorter. So if you wanted to make him, in fact, I might be naughty and actually make it shorter because it might look quite cute if he's got two little friends. I don't know, can't make up my mind. But it's up to you. There's certain points here, which I will tell you as we go, that you either do one row less or one row more if you wanted a tall one. So you can play about with the design. So you could have lots of little ones in there. Now this is crocheted directly onto him. So there are certain points where I'm doing back loop crochet, so we can pick up later. So that's something you need to keep an eye on. But otherwise, it's quite simple actually. It really is. I think I need to move my drink before I end up spilling it because I have a tendency to knock things over. And we're going to get going with the mushroom's body. Yeah, this looks appalling. It all started falling apart, so I just had to quickly sort of to stop it tangling more than anything else, turn it into a ball. So it's not very neat, I'm afraid. I don't know how some of you keep your yarn neat. Mine is an absolute disaster zone. I put it away, I think it's tidy, go to get it out, it all falls apart. I just can't keep it tidy. So here we go. We're going to have a slip knot on the hook there, and we're going to start with 2 chain because yes, he is an amigurumi style mushroom. Into our first chain, we're going to do 6 double crochet. You guessed it. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and don't forget they're UK double crochets. In the US, I know they are single crochets, but here in the UK, for whatever reason, We call them double crochets. I don't know, it's all confusing. So we're now going to go round again. We have 6 stitches there. I'm now going to do 2 in each of those stitches to give us 12. So sneaking into that first one, if it'll go in, the first one's always awkward. 2 double crochets in number 1. 2 double crochets in number 2. In number 3. Number 4. Number 5, and in number 6. So that was 2 in each of the 6, so of course we now have 12. I am just tightening up that original one so you can see there's no hole there. So we now have 12 stitches there. Still not enough. We're now going to do 2 into each of those 12, giving us 24 stitches. So here we go. Find the first one, 2 in this one, 2 in number 2, in number 3, in number 4, number 5, in number 6, so we're halfway around there, in number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, just 2 more to go, number 11, and number 12. So now we have 24 stitches on the base. We're going to do just one round. I'm just double checking what I've written because I've drawn an arrow on my pattern. I'm so and so for that to say where I should have done something. So I'm just checking what I have done. All right, so as you can see, that's the size of the base. We are now going to do one round on only back loop. Now, if you've not done these before with me, I'm going to take the hook out. When we look at our crochet, we can see there's these two little pieces. Let's see how close we can get that. So there's the 2 sides, and usually we go through both of those sides, yes, but this is our front loop and this is our back loop. We are going to only work in the back loop. Okay, so we're going to do a full round of double crochets just in the back loop. So we can see here, so we should have 24 stitches. So we've got 1, 2 just in that back loop, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just push it out the way a bit, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you'll know when you're round anyway, 15, 16, a little bit more yarn out, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, we've just got 4 more, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So we're round. So you can see it creates this ridge here, and that ridge is what we'll go back into when we do the grass. We don't need to do it now. You don't have to do it at all if you're not doing the grass. So we are now going to have a double crochet round. So it's just 1 double crochet into each one. Now if you want to pop your stitch marker in now, it is a good time. I've got this little gnome one that I got, which I think is super cute. So we're going to just slide it in there, and I'm going to do 1 double crochet in each. But remember, we are now picking up both pieces, yeah, so both pieces, just a normal double crochet round. Off we go. So we should have 24 stitches, and this should start to turn the actual shaping up his body. So we've done the bottom bit where he's sitting on. We're now going to work up the body of the mushroom. There is a little bit of decreasing coming, but nothing too drastic, so you'll be fine with that. This is a pattern I do hope to get online. I've got 3 patterns actually already to type up, so I do need to sit, I think, this evening and type up some patterns. So we are round. So you can see it's starting to curve, so you can see that's where the bottom is, and his shaping is now coming out. We are now going to do one decrease. I don't know what I was going to say then. Decrease round, and you're going to decrease by 4 stitches only. So you're going to do 2 together, then 4 double crochets. Okay, so the first 2 are together, so in the full stitch again. We're not doing bits and bobs, we're just not front or back, it's just full stitch. So I do it, don't complete it, go into the next one, pull it through, 3 on the hook, pull it through all 3. We're going to do 4 individual ones now. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, 2 together, through all 3, 4 individual, 1, 2, 3 and 4. We have another 2 together. This is our third 2 together, then 4 individual, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Our final 2 together, and 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're back where we should be with our little gnome. So you can see we're getting that shape, so like a little basket forming at the moment. We're now going to have, I'm double checking my writing, where am I? There we are. Right, we're going to now do 2 double crochet rounds. My writing is terrible, just look at the state of this. So I'm just going to grab my pen a minute and just make sure I know what I've actually written myself. I have absolutely no idea what I have written, but we will get there. I know where I'm going anyway. So we're now going to do 2 double crochet rounds, just bog standard double crochet rounds, okay? So we've got 1, remember we've only got 20 stitches now, 2, 3, you can just use your stitch marker if you want, which I will probably do because I end up sort of talking in between. So we have 2 rounds. You know, I was saying if you wanted to make him shorter, these are the times when you're just doing just the double crochet rounds. Like this is, I'm saying do 2, well you could just do 1 if you wanted to make him a little bit shorter. So we should have 20 stitches round. It is best to count if you can. I know you've got a stitch marker there, but you shouldn't really 100% rely on it. So that's round 1. Off we go again. There is another piece of decrease. I'm just looking at the pattern that I did do, but it's not that difficult. So we're on round 2 of just 1 double crochet into each of those 20 stitches, and you can see the body starting to form. Halfway there. Now, I know for a lot of you, you would just sort of whiz off and carry on doing what I'm doing. But if there's any of you that are real beginners, don't forget you can slow it down in the settings. Or if you're not sure about that, give me a shout in the comments and I'll sort of have a look at it for you. It does alter my voice, but sometimes you only need to see what I'm doing rather than talking anyway. Right, so we're round again. We're back round to little gnome there, so you can see it forming. And we need another decrease. And that is going to be 2 together, like we did before. But then instead of 4, we're doing 3. So it's 2 together, then 1, 2, 3. And we do that 4 times. And for some reason, I've written down that goes down to 15. Well, it doesn't, does it? It goes down to 16. Oh dear, my maths are terrible. Right, so 2 together, 3 stitches. Are we ready? So 2 together and then 1, 2, 3. That's our first set. So 2 together again and then 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's our second one. So 2 together. Then we have 1, 2, and 3. And our very last decrease is 2 together. And then we have 1, 2, and 3. Now I think you should move your stitch marker up now, because we've gone quite a few rounds, and I do usually recommend you move it up maybe 3 maximum. You know, you do 3 rounds then move it up. So I've moved it back up to there, and now we're going to do another 2 rounds of just double crochet, so you can see where we're getting to. So just 1 double crochet in each, and we should have 16 stitches now, because we did decrease by another 4 there. So there's less to actually do now. We do have another back loop one coming up, but again, sort of optional. It depends whether you want to do that little frill that I've done around his neck. If you don't want to do the little frill, you won't have to do it. It'd be nice to have a mixture of different ones anyway, wouldn't it? Right, so that's round 1. Round 2. Stitch marker is going to start clicking on the table soon, I can see it. Should have put a smaller stitch marker in, might have been a good idea. So we're almost round anyway. Right, so that was 2 rounds of 1 double crochet in each stitch. Get back to little gnome and pause a second. So you can now see the size that we are getting. If I take my hook out, you can see what we've got there. So you can see it slightly slopes in as well. And we'll pop him next to our little guy here. And next one, because this is roughly where the frill would be, we do 1 double crochet round of just back loop crochet, exactly the same as you did at the bottom. If you don't want the frill put on like this, just do a double crochet round, entirely up to you. That's the thing. I'm just giving you sort of a blueprint, and then obviously you can play about with it and pop your personality on it from there. I'm just going to tuck that in because it's annoying. There we go. So back loop double crochet. So pick up that back bit. We have 1. We've got 16 stitches, remember. 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't lose it. 5, 5, 5. That was 6, wasn't it? I think. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nearly there. 12, 13. 14, 15 and 16. So that was just 1. Can you just see the ridge there? This is the ridge we'll be working into after. We just did 1 back loop double crochet into each of those stitches. We now need some more DC rounds, because again, let's have a look at this little guy. You can see where we've got to. Yeah. So we need a couple more rounds, and it's only 16 stitches, so it's just 2 double crochets, not 2 double crochets, 2 rounds of 1 double crochet in each one. So again, you can rely on your stitch marker if you want, just for this little bit. Again, you can make him taller, you can make him shorter at these points. Wherever it's the rounds where I go, oh, it's 2 double crochet rounds, just do 1. I think with the neck you do need to do a couple, because otherwise the frill gets a little bit close to his face. But for the rest of his body, you can shorten it easy enough. Or lengthen it. Instead of doing 2 rounds, do 3 rounds. Make it longer. And as soon as we've done these 2 rounds, you've actually finished his body. So that's round 1. And this is a round 2. I really do need to wind this into a decent looking ball. It looks terrible. Well, at least it's not tangled. I think we will pick up on, we might pick up on the frill, not the base at this point, and then we'll go on to the cap of the mushroom. Oh, nearly lost that onto the floor. And we're back to little gnome. So, oh, there we go. And when it's stuffed, obviously, it gets a little bit fatter than that. He's not very fat at the moment, but we need a bit of stuffing in there. So I'm just going to do a slip stitch to finish, because I like to do a slip stitch to finish my work. And we don't actually need this colour at all, so I'm moving that completely off my desk. So I need to fasten that off, take out my stitch marker. Now I've done the frill in a cream, and this is the cream I've done it, and I'm hoping this wool is going to behave. I'm really not happy with it. It was a cheap one. It's my own fault. Just look at that. So I ended up having to keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it, but it's the only nice cream colour I had, so that is why I stuck. I'm hoping, I can see there is another bad bit, but I think we should get the actual frill done without hitting that. So it's just unfortunate. I've not had this happen before, but yeah, this is sort of quite a bad ball of wool. So we can see this here, yeah? You see these stitches? These are what we're going to pick up. Now, because it's an amigurumi, can you also see its steps? Because it's spiral, it starts in one place and ends up almost a stitch higher. That is normal enough. Do not worry about that. We can work around that. So I'm just going to pick up this first one, pick up my yarn. I'm going to pull it through. Try not to pull it through too far. I'm going to do a chain. And then I'm going to do a double crochet back into that stitch. I'll just tighten that up. And then I'm going to do just 2 more into that stitch. So we're doing 3 double crochets into each of these front loop stitches from a previous round. So that's 2. That's 3. We have 1, 2, 3. 1. It is a bit weird to do this if you're not used to it. 2 and 3. Even I find it a bit odd to hold. So making sure we're only getting that front loop. We've got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I just sort of shuffle it round. Where are we? We're about halfway. We've got 1, 2, and 3. The 3 in each one is what's going to create our little frill, so you do need to do that. 1, 2, and 3. How many more we've got? Yeah, we're 3rd round now. Nearly missed one there. Always be careful you don't miss a stitch, otherwise if you don't keep it this close, you will actually end up losing the frill bit, so you do need to watch what you're doing with that. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. In fact, what I'm going to do is, if I fold that over, you can see the stitch better, can't you? So let me just pull that tight. I think there is a dodgy bit coming up, but fingers crossed. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Just a couple more stitches to go. 1, 2, 3. What we got? Is it 1 or 2 we've got left? We've actually got 2. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to check the yarn before I go much further, because if I have to break it off, I'm going to break it off before I start the next round. There's one last stitch in there. We got it. Make sure we get the whole stitch. That's not quite a whole stitch. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I mean, if you want, you can actually fold that in, and it's just out of your way then. So let's just have a quick look at this yarn, because look, there's another bad bit. Not good. So I'm going to cut it. Hopefully your yarn's not going to do that. so you're not going to have a dodgy bit of yarn. I think it's just, I don't know whether perhaps it's been caught. This is some reason it's doing it. So I'm having to start another piece of yarn. You shouldn't have to here. You should be able to just continue into your next stitch with a double crochet into each of those 3 stitches. Yeah, so it's just 1 in each now, no more than that, but make sure you don't miss any because they're close to each other. So, you know, give it a little stretch and you can see where the stitches are, because it's very easy to miss them. So just 1 double crochet into each of those 3 that you've done from the previous round. There's one there I nearly missed then, so you do need to give it a little stretch every now and again. It feels like there's like so many stitches after you've multiplied it all by 3. It seems to go on forever. But it's not actually that many stitches. Just feels like it. Yeah, there's one there that's hiding. Like you see, you can sort of see if you're not careful. So just give it a stretch. Three-quarters way around. I swear it's multiplied to about 300 stitches, this, isn't it? Nearly there. We can see the beginning now. Can give it a little stretch. Make sure you don't miss a stitch, because if you miss a stitch, it'll make it flatter, so you're not going to get that little wavy line that we're after. Right, and then we can just slip stitch into the top of the first stitch and it's done. So thankfully it didn't go again, so we'll just fasten that off, let this come back out. You can see it already what it's doing. Can you see? So it gives us this little ruffle all the way around. Sometimes, you know, if it's like gone flat, you sometimes just need to push it into place, but we do get a very cute little ruffle there. So you can stuff it now, you can stuff it after, it doesn't really matter. I don't need, well, I do need that one for sewing on, so leave that one there. They need tucking in. I've just got an extra one because of the silly yarn, haven't I? And we just sort of pop our stuffing in. You will need quite a bit. You'll be surprised how much you need. Ta-da! And then we can start on the head. Now, I'm pretty sure I have actually made this shorter, so we'll go with this as the pattern that I'm doing, because like I say, I did an arrow and I've got a feeling I missed something, but I actually quite like it that size. I think it might work better. So that is our body. This is still needed for the underneath bit. We need our red. What should we go for next? I think we might go for the red, and then these two then are put together. I'm just trying to think. Yes, we do. But when we do the red, we're not going to fasten off at the end, because we're going to crochet the two together. Okay, so when you've done that, don't fasten it off, just pop it to one side. So I'm actually going to do a little pause, because I'm going to have a little bit of my drink. I don't know where my clicker is. It is there. So I'll see you back in a second with the top of our mushroom. So time to do the top of our mushroom. I've just sewn in those ends that were here just to sort of make it a little bit tidier, so it's easier for you to see when we come to sewing it together. So we're going to start with the under part, I think. I was going to do the top first, but because I want you to leave a thread there, I think we'll go for the underneath piece first. So I'm using this yarn, and fingers crossed we're not going to get a dodgy bit again. So like with the base of it, we are starting with our slip knot, and we're starting with 2 chain, because again, is an amigurumi style. It is quite a simple one, this. We're going to start with 2 double crochets into that first one. Why did I say 2? That is because when I'm doing something else I do 2. We're doing with 6 actually. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I've got about 10 different projects on at the moment, so I'm doing all sorts of different things. Right, so we have 6 there. We now need 2 in each, because obviously 6 is not enough. So 2 double crochets into that each of those 6. So where's number 1? So that is 2 in number 1, 2 in number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and don't drop it, number 5 still, and number 6, which is our last one there. So that gives us 12 stitches now, just tightening up that middle bit. Don't ever pull it too tight if your yarn's a bit sort of vulnerable, because some of them will snap, so be careful with that. So again, like we did with the base, we're now doing 2 in each again to give us 24 stitches. So that's 2 in the first one, in the second one, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So that was 2 in each one. So we now have our 24 stitches, but it's still not enough, but we are going to do a double crochet round before we do any more increases. So up to you. Maybe stitch marker, maybe I think we will. I don't know where I've put my stitch marker. That's a surprise. Again, I'm actually doing 2 videos at the same time here as well, because the other one I'm doing is a doll one, but I've got to do it in sections, so I have to do a bit, leave it, do a bit, do it, leave it. So I'm actually doing 2 at once. So 1 double crochet round, here we go. So we should have 24 stitches. Shall we count them? That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, it's looking good, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I hope we've got 4 more. I think we have. 21, 22, 23, and directly above little gnome, 24. So we now still have 24 stitches. We still need to increase by quite a bit, because obviously that's not going to be big enough, is it? But this increase, we're going to do 12 increases. So it will actually give us 36 stitches in total. But basically, it's 2 in 1, 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, all the way round. So 2 in this first one, which is your increase, and then 1 in your second one. And you're going to keep repeating that. So we have a 2, and we have a 1. And I'm just going to rely on the stitch marker here, but we should do this 12 times if you're counting. So the set is 2 in 1, 1 in the next. That's a set, and you will do that 12 times. And pull a bit more of this yarn out. It seems to be behaving up to now, so fingers crossed. Perhaps it was just a bad section. You can sometimes get that with yarn. It's very frustrating when it happens. Even good quality yarns, it can go wrong. I know they're supposed to be checked perhaps, but I can't imagine being able to check a full ball of yarn all the time. There must be ones that slip through. 2 and 1. So you can see it's growing by quite a bit now. We're going to have a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, almost there, 2, 1, move little gnome out the way. We're going to have a 2, and then this is my last 1. Okay, so we now need to do some just plain double crochet rounds. We have 2 rounds to do. Might be worth moving him up now, because when you do an increase round or a decrease round, it's a good idea to move that slip stitch marker up. So 2 rounds, that's easy peasy. We don't need to count, we'll just rely on little gnome here, and just 1 double crochet into every stitch, and we'll do that for 2 rounds. And then you've done. That's the base anyway, the underneath bit. The top isn't much different. There is a couple of rounds that are to give us a little bit more shape. So that is why I am having to do both. If they had been exactly the same, I'd have probably said, right, just do 2 of those or something like that. But there is a very slight difference. See how it's expanding just by that, you know, that 12 increase on the previous round. How different it makes the size. So this is round 1. As I say, we need 2. Back to little gnome. So that is round 1. We need 1 more round. Okay, so off we go. Now, as I said, this does actually make, if I can add up, we had 24 and then we added 12, so we should have 36 stitches, and hopefully you are there. You need the same amount of stitches on this, on its final round, as you do on the top, on the red bit, for the final round, because we're going to be crocheting them together, so the stitches have to line up. Otherwise, you're going to end up with some lumps and bumps. So it is quite important you get the sizes exactly the same. It doesn't matter if this bit's different, but this edge has to be the same. That's what I said, because the top is slightly different to this anyway. Can't believe how warm it is today. It's been really weird. Yesterday I actually got my winter coat out, went shopping, it was cool, it was lovely to have my coat on, and today I went out and didn't need my coat, and then I was still too warm. And even my craft room, so I put my fan away so it had cooled down. But even in here, while I'm doing this, I'm warm. I mean, the only good side is I put some washing out this morning, and it was like jeans and heavy stuff, work stuff for my husband and my son as well. And it dries it nicely. That's the only bit I like. It got my washing dry, if nothing else. So almost at Gnomey Gnome. And we're going to just do a slip stitch. No, I'm going to stop myself. I am not doing a slip stitch because I want to crochet them together. And if I put a slip stitch there, it gets in the way because it's hard to get into a slip stitch. So no, I haven't. I know I normally finish off with a slip stitch, and I nearly did then, but I'm not going to in this particular case. So that's our base. Easy peasy. Let's bring in our red yarn, and we're going to do very, very similar. It starts exactly the same. I've got this very strange ball of wool like I have with the other one. Again, when I get a bit further down, I'll just turn it into a proper ball. I don't mind winding balls of wool, but sometimes if you're rushing about, that was just the quickest way of doing it. So 2 chain, 6 double crochet, you guessed it, into that first chain. So we've got 1. It's not much different to the other bit. 2, it's split, naughty yarn, there we go. 3, 4, 5 and 6, and yes, we need 2 in each of those 6 to give us our 12. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. tighten that up because we definitely don't want any holes in the top of our mushroom. Or it could be a toadstool. I keep calling it a mushroom. It could quite easily be a little toadstool. In fact, it's probably more likely to be a toadstool, isn't it? So that's our 2 in each. And again, we're going to go 2 in each again for our 24. So we have 12 there, and obviously 2 in each. It's going to make us 24 stitches. So off we go. So that's 2 in number 1, 2 in 2, 2 in 3, in 4, in number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, 9, 10, just 2 and 2 more, in number 11, and in number 12. So you've got 2 stitches into each one, so you can see we're a little bit larger, but definitely still not any bigger. We are now going to do a double crochet round, which we didn't do with the other one at this point. It just gives you a little bit more curve to our round. So we've got 24 stitches. Again, up to you. You can count, you can pop your stitch marker in. Should we pop stitch marker in? It might be a good idea. Because I forget, I'm terrible. I start counting and I start talking and I've lost it. So 1 double crochet into every single one of those, which should be 24 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've still counted, I've done 9, 10, 11. I think my head just counts all the time. 12, whether I want to or not. 13, 14, 15. Get a bit more of that yarn out because I know it's going to roll off the table if not. 15. Did I say 15 last time? I don't know. This is why we have a stitch marker. Let's just go round until we get to our gnome. And our last stitch for gnome for that. Right, so you can see we are building up nicely, but we do need a bit more of an increase. Remember with the other one where we did the 12 different increases, where it was 2 in one, 1 in the next one, and we did that all the way around for 12 sets. That is what we need again here. So that's 2 in that one, 1 in that one, 1 set, and we're going to do that another 11 times. Back to our stitch marker. And 1. We have a 2. We have a 1. We have squeaky wool. I know that much. I don't know how much you can hear. But they weren't squeaking, but this red is squeaking. For whatever reason, I do not know. But it is. That's just squeaky wool. So I'd say about halfway now. So we need a 2 and a 1 all the way around. A 2. Which is our increase, and a 1. 2 and 1. 2 and 1. 2, 1, 2, and 1, and we're back to where gnome was. So we've increased by 12 stitches, giving us our 36 that I talked about in this one. But instead of doing 2 rounds now, we're going to do 3 rounds because I need it to come round just a little bit further than this one. So I'm going to move our gnome up because, as I said before, we've increased by 12 stitches, so it will alter my start position very, very slightly. So off we go with 3 rounds of 1 double crochet into every stitch. And then that's it for the majority of it. We will have actually created the main parts for our mushroom. Now, I've got to remember, I've already told you guys, but I will forget if I'm not careful. When I get to the end of these 3 rounds, I do not cut the yarn. If you do, it is not the end of the world. You can just reattach, but it means less ends, less messing about if we don't have to reattach. So we're not going to cut the yarn when we get to the end of this. We fasten off our work to a certain degree. It holds, but then we sort of put them together, and it just makes, I'll show you when we get to it. It just makes it a little bit easier, that's all. It might not be a ball shape, that wool, but it's rolling about. So this is round 1, isn't it? Yes. Remind myself it is round 1. And a couple of stitches and we're back to now. So that is round 1. Let's start round 2. Off we go. Now, if you wanted to do more rounds at this point, it would just make this bit here longer. So, you know, again, it's one of those things, I'm giving you a basic sort of idea. You can then play around with shapes and colours and anything else like that, just to make yours a little bit more individual if you wish to. So it just gives you an idea, really. So this is round 2. And we're still squeaking for whatever reason. You can see shape starting to come. You'll see even more when you've done your last one. I hate how red, I'm just like looking at the camera, it glares. It gives a sort of really odd colour off. So I don't actually like crocheting with red for the videos. But obviously, especially when we're coming near Christmas and things, everything's red. In fact, I need to get some more red wool. In fact, I need quite a bit of red wool for a project I'm doing for myself. Which I will show you when I've done, but I'm not going to do like a tutorial on it. I'm taking some pictures as I go, because I'm making myself a mushroom hat, but it is part structured, as in I'm making it with card and things, and fabrics, but the top is actually going to be crocheted. So I might regret that, because it's quite a large mushroom hat, as in a broad brim mushroom hat, but you know, it'll be a bit of fun. So it's getting there, but I just know I'm going to run out of red yarn. I've certainly not got enough there where this yarn is. So I could do with getting just a couple more balls. But I don't want it too red, you know. I mean, I'm saying this glares. There's some of them that are almost fluorescent for a red. I want a proper... This is, in the light, this is actually quite a nice deep red. It's just on the camera, for whatever reason, when I'm looking at it from this point anyway, it makes it a little bit brighter. Few more to go. You know, in my head while I'm crocheting it, I'm going, well, we've got that many to do, then fasten off, because that's habit. I'm not fastening off. I've got to be strict with myself here. So we're almost at home. I'm going to take the stitch marker out when we get there, because it's just going to be a hindrance if I don't. And then we'll get on joining the two together. So, haven't fastened off, not doing a slip stitch, taken a gnome out. That's that done. Now, if you're more organised than me, what you really need to do is sew your ends in. But I'm really naughty, and I'm not going to, because it makes it sort of quicker for show you guys. So I need to match them up edge to edge now. Okay, I'm going to go in the next stitch of the red, and then pick up a full stitch of the cream and double crochet. Yeah, we're going to go in one side, making sure you're picking up both pieces of each side,
because otherwise it won't make it neat. And we need to just double crochet, sandwiching the two together. You can stitch them together if you don't like crocheting things together. So there's no real rules. It's just that when I'm doing it, I personally think, for me at least, that this makes it look a little bit neater. And it also saves sewing up, because there's not many people like sewing up. So if we can avoid it, why not? Right, every now and again, recheck that you're lining up, because it's so easy to miss it. There we go. They should, if you've got a 36 in each one, match exactly. It's always a bit weird when we get to, like, you can see where we sort of started the work. That's sometimes a bit of a pain to keep flat, but we can sort that out. Okay, so you can see, because again, with it being a spiral, so I've just tucked in the end to get it out of the way. Make sure you're picking up that bit. There we go. And carrying on. Now obviously don't go all the way around, because we need to pop some stuffing in there, but you can go a fair distance. You know, you only need to leave a little pocket to pop your stuffing in, and then you continue round with your crocheting together. In fact, we're nearly at a point of stuffing. Let's have a look what we've got there. Maybe a couple more. Say it's up to you for that. I mean, you can go as small as you want and stuff it, or as wide as you want. It's just that it's, I think, harder to get the stuffing in if you leave it too much. Right, so I'm just going to take that out a minute. These I'm going to push back in, but I'm also going to make sure they're pulled tight before, because I don't want to cut them off or anything. I'm just going to pop them inside like that and grab my stuffing. Again, you can stuff this as much or as little as you want. I think we need a little bit more. Obviously, it just make it stick up higher if you put more stuffing in. That's the only thing there. So I think probably fuller than the other one, but I'm quite happy with that. So pick up my crochet together bit again and carry on. Try not to catch the stuffing, because that's very easy, and it's very annoying when your stuffing sticks outside, but it does happen. Also harder to hold now as well, but it's only a few more stitches. What we got? I think we got, maybe, is it 2 or 3 more? It was just mine, maybe 1 more actually. Nope, and there is just literally 1 more. Right, so in, it's always hard to get it, but we need to make sure we do, otherwise we get a gap. And there we go. So this time I am going to do a slip stitch there, and I've done. That is the top of our very cute little mushroom. So now, as you can see, I wasn't planning on putting eyes on him. It was only when I finished and I thought I did. And I wish, because I've put it on really straight there, I wish I'd put it on rather than straight to then put the eyes on. I wish I'd sort of tipped it up a little bit, so his face was a little bit more obvious. Entirely up to you for that. Now obviously this bit we've left here, I've got a feeling I've not left it long enough, is how we're going to stitch these together. But before I do that, I want to sort of address this little bit around the bottom, which you can't really see in this because the green is too light. Now you remember we did the back loop, get it the right way around. Let's hope this one's not too tangled. Now see, this is what happens to the yarn, isn't it? You use it and you get to a certain point and then this disaster zone happens. So I'm going to be really naughty and just cut that bit off for now, and we will start with this. Now this should show up a lot better than the one I did previously. So I've got my green yarn, again optional this, and we'll look for this ridge. Can you see it? There's this ridge all the way around. Like, remember earlier I mentioned when we did the frill, it starts here, but then when it finishes, it's a little bit higher, purely because it's spiral, and that is what happens. So we need to pick this up. You can see how I've picked it up there. So I'm actually going to take one of the last one, which is the higher one, and I'm also going to take the first of the lower one, because I want to even that line out, if that makes any sense. And we're just going to pull it through. I'm going to do a chain, and then I'm going to do a double crochet into that stitch. Okay, so it's up to you. You can crochet that in as you go, or stitch it in afterwards. We will stitch it in afterwards. I normally crochet in, but I think it affects appearance when you're trying to look. So I'm just going to do one double crochet into each of those front loops that we left on that previous, well, on the very first part, really, wasn't it, when we were making the mushroom. On the pattern I'll work out which round that is and actually write it down. In fact, let me have a little look. Oh, I've moved the pattern now, I can't tell, but you know which one it is. It just helps it stand up. And have you noticed I have this frill facing my body as well, and that is the direction I'm crocheting in, because it gives us a ridge then for the little mushroom or toadstool to stand up. I think this one's easier to pick up than where the frill is, actually, because you can sort of just squish it down and pick the stitch up. With the frill one, it was hard to hold a little bit. So we're almost round. This stands out so much better than the other one. I mean, I will leave the other one as it is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a paler green, that's all. Right, I am going to do a slip stitch join into that, but I am not fastening off my yarn. Okay, so you can see we get this little ridge. I'm going to pull a bit of it out. I don't want the whole thing, because I'm going to be trying to embroider on these. Well, it's hardly embroidery, but it's a little bit of a stitch, put it that way. So I now need a fine wool needle. I also need to pull all that yarn through this to fasten it off, so otherwise it goes on forever, that, but you want to make sure you've got enough. Again, you can reattach if you really want to, but I'm being lazy by doing it so it all goes together. Now, so I get this through this needle. There we go. Now, I probably don't need that much, but it's better to have too much rather than having to do it. But if you find it hard to handle that much yarn, or it tangles or anything, just do it in bits and bobs. So we have our little shape here. I'm now going to tuck this in from here, so it's out of the way. Yeah, so I've taken it up from there. And this is random. I didn't time that, count it or anything. I just thought, oh, well, I'll go up there, across, and back down again. So I'm just going back down to there. Just move along a couple of stitches. Again, you can do every stitch if you want. Yeah, it is a bit of a pain, this, because it's too long. I don't even know I'm pulling through now. Oh, I'm pulling through. There we go. So you can see that's got tangled, so pull it through. There we go. So I've just done like two little grass bruts sort of thing. And then I'm going to do two shorter ones. Just going back down to where these green and cream join here. Miss a couple. And then I think I'll do one very long one and one shorter one, so I've gone across like that. Miss two. Again, there's no real pattern. I'm just saying that's what I'm doing. You don't have to. So you see how it's forming. So it just makes it look like he's stood on some grass. I'm going to do a very tiny one and then a medium length one. Don't pull it too tight though, because otherwise you won't be able to see it. And I'm going to go straight back into that same one there. So it's like a little V shape. Yep, like that. I think I need another. We're going to have two long ones about the same length this time. Yep, so you can see how it's forming. So you don't have to do this grass bit at all. I just thought it was a bit of fun just to make it a little bit brighter in colour. Just make it a little bit more interesting. Make him look like he's sat on some grass or coming out of some grass or something like that. It's getting easier now. The yarn's getting a bit shorter. So I'm going to do a couple of tiny ones. Pull that a bit tight. If you pull it a bit tight, just do that and it pulls it back out again. And we're almost round. And I'm going to go for a really long one there and a smaller one there. Make sure you pull the right bit. And that's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push through underneath that green. Try not to do what I've just done though. There we go. And I'm just going to fold that back so I can just fasten off where the green is. Out of the way, and then like normal when I fasten through, we'll just push it through a couple of times through the stuffing, because then you'll find the stuffing does hold it. So I'm not doing anything with this, I'm just sort of getting rid of it really. Make sure I've not pulled it too tight before I cut it off, and cut it off. So the only ends we have to sew in now, I did do that way too long, didn't I, is we do have this little one here which I can just thread through, but because we've made that little base now, it'll stand, so you don't have to make him just a sort of a hanging one. It helps him stand. I think that green worked better than that green. There we go. Stand up. There we go, they do stand up. So the last job we've got, unless you're putting a face on, that is sewing this onto this. So hopefully this yarn we've got here is going to be enough. If not, again, you can just join some more yarn up. So we need to find, I'm going to find centre point on this one because I am going to do it straight, but you decide, you know, you maybe want different positions. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just sort of trying to line it up best I can to the centre, so it looks equal all the way around, and then I'm just going to sort of squish it like that to hold it, and I'm going to pick up a stitch from the mushroom head, pick up a stitch from the body, and we're just going to try and keep to the same line all the way around. But again, remember, because of that spiral, that's not always as easy as it looks. So every now and again you need to stop and go, is it central? Am I getting the right bit? Do I need to pull it over? All those little bits and pieces that you do need to keep an eye on. As you get used to it, you'll probably find that easy, but we do have some beginners on some of the projects, so I do need to make sure I point things like that out. So we're going to go all the way around. I'm not going to complete it from there. I'm going to leave it at this point and let you guys complete it. We need to sew this end in. We will need that end in and that end in. But essentially, we have our two little mushrooms here, which I'm quite pleased. I do like that green. Ooh, I'm sort of tempted to take that out, but it will be a bit of a pain. I know it will. So detailing comes down to you. If you want to add on little buttons on the top or little beads, I was very tempted to do pearls on the top because I've got some small pearls, but I decided not to. I thought, well, I'll keep with the button theme. So I've used two little tiny black buttons there for the eyes, and then I said that little bit of wool there, or embroidery thread, whatever you've got, and then just stitched on. However, you can glue them on if you don't like stitching them on, but just be aware, if it's going to be going as a toy to anybody, you do need to make sure you're stitching your work on thoroughly, or find a different way of doing it rather than using something that might with a bit of pulling coming off, so you do have to be thorough with that. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to finish this little guy. I have done some photos of this one. I'm tempted to sort of do some joint photos now. I might finish this one before I do the thumbnail and pop it together. So thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my channel, please like, subscribe and share. There will be a pattern to follow for this one, which I will pop in the link. I've got to write it up yet, but I will do that very, very soon. And again, just thank you so much for being there. So bye bye for now.